What's that sound? It's For Amusement Only, the EM and Bingo Pinball Podcast.
Welcome back to For Amusement Only. This is Nick Baldridge. My wife and I had a very nice 10th anniversary celebration. Thank you to all who gave us well wishes. And we are back. Today I had off of work, but my wife was not able to take off, so I ended up just working in the game room today, and I ended up hanging some spare playfields that I have until someone needs one, and then they'll come down. But I also started working on the nightclub after it had its big fall, and I decided that it was a good time to do a full shop job on the replay register in the Magic Squares unit. So starting tonight, I wanted to do I think a two-part series on the replay register and how to take those apart and clean them, and how to reassemble them. This may end up being a three-part thing because there are important things to note about each step of this process, and it's a multi-step process. Taking apart the replay register reminds me of just how complex and well engineered these pieces of hardware are. The replay register is obviously designed in such a way to prevent tampering. It's also designed to be very, very reliable. So with those two goals in mind, you can imagine that the mechanics of this unit have to be pretty spot on. So I've taken apart many replay registers in my day, but I hadn't yet taken apart the nightclub. So I thought, today's the day. Now normally this only takes maybe an hour to do in full, because I've done it many times in the past. But this ended up taking me, 5 hours, some ridiculous number of hours, because whomever had operated this game had decided that the replay register needed Loctite, and it needed it in every possible place that could have Loctite applied. So every single screw, every single nut had Loctite on it, and the shaft of all of the bolts. So it was quite a challenge to get the thing apart. But when I finally did get it apart, I was able to clean it and reassemble it and everything. So let's talk about how these are constructed. They're made in such a way that it's very easy to lose pieces if you're not paying attention. The very first thing that you want to do is take off the retaining nuts that hold the replay register to the backboard. And there are actually two nuts stacked on top of each other on both the top and the bottom of the replay register. So you have to remove the first one. There's a tiny little spring washer in between. Remove the second one. Underneath that, there's a tiny star washer, and then a regular flat washer underneath that on both the top and the bottom. Then the entire register unit will come out swing-free switches, coils, everything. From here, you want to remove the green frontispiece. It's made out of metal, and there are 3 or 4 retaining screws which hold it in place. This nightclub had 3. So once I was able to remove those screws, I took off the green plate, and that revealed the bar which goes between the stop mechanism and the opposite side of the register bracket. So you take that out as well, and then you're left with the reels, and then tiny reels which turn the next reel as it goes. So in this particular configuration, there were 3 reels, a 1s, a 10s, and a 100s. Mechanically, the 100s reel has a nub that sticks out and catches a little lock arm. And this catches at the number 8, prevents it from turning to 9. This means that the maximum credits which will be displayed on the meter are 899. But in order to remove those reels and even begin thinking about cleaning them, you have to remove 2 nuts, one on either side of the shaft that holds those reels in place. At the same time, you have to remove hair clips, which are holding in the shaft, which is holding the smaller little wheels, little gears in. So once you remove the nuts, you'll reveal these washers underneath, and then a star gear underneath that. Those also are removed. Now, once you do that, you'll see that there is an interesting ovaloid, ovular. It's oval-like. Piece of metal that the star gear sits in, and from there you can slide it to either side. Now, the shaft is typically completely filthy, and it's covered with grime and grunge and grease where people have tried to lube it to give better action, but the only way to make these things work properly is to disassemble and clean them. Lubing does nothing. It just makes a mess. So people do that to try to make a shortcut for themselves, and it doesn't end up working. So you think, no big deal. You can slide out this shaft from either side and then start taking the reels out. But that's actually not the case, because the shaft is keyed on one side, and it's keyed in such a way that the 1s digit slots into the key slot. It's the only reel with a key. Now, I'll say that again for emphasis, because this is very important to remember. The 1s digit is the only one with a key. Everything else turns mechanically. So once the 1s digit makes a full revolution, it engages the star gear inside the small star gear, and it will turn the larger number, so it'll turn the tens. Once the tens makes a full revolution, it'll turn the next star gear, and it will engage the hundreds. So mechanically, the tens and the hundreds don't really care about their position, so they don't have to be keyed. They're held into place by the star gears normally. So, knowing that, you have to remove the shaft from the ones side first. Now, an important thing to remember is that there should be a washer on the one side. There should be 2 washers on the 100 side. Now, what makes this particularly annoying is that these washers have to be perfectly aligned. They just have to be lined up absolutely perfectly, and they're inside the unit. So as you start disassembling, the washers like to go flying. Pay careful attention. Even if it looks like they're stuck in place, as you start flexing the shaft and moving it around, it's going to knock that washer loose, and then the washer's going to go somewhere you don't expect it to. So if you're able to get either a small flathead screwdriver and just put it underneath so that you've kind of engaged the hoop of this washer, or use a small magnet and grasp it that way. Now, these washers are also usually completely filthy, and that's because people try to grease, again, underneath the star gear on the outside, and that grease ends up winding its way back, and it appears to glue the washer in place. It doesn't, though. Remember that. The double washer set on the other side is particularly irritating. And just remember that configuration for now. Now, your meter should be in several pieces, and you'll notice that we did not remove the locking plate underneath, because now you have access to the plate to clean it, should you need to. We also didn't remove sections of the bracket. Now, this is only the way that I do it, and I'm sure there are other ways, and maybe there's even a better way than the way that I do it, but this way has worked successfully for me, and normally is not a problem. So, tomorrow we're going to talk about how to clean these components that you've removed, and there are some critical things to remember there as well. And then for the third part, we'll talk about reassembly. And this has its own tricks and gotchas, very similar to the ones that you've heard about tonight. But it's important to note that these things have to be followed, or else you're going to wind up with a meter that doesn't work properly. So that's all for tonight. Thank you again for joining me. My name again is Nick Baldridge. You can reach me at foramusementonlypodcast@gmail.com, or you can call me on the Bingos line. That's 724-BINGOS1, 724-246-4671. You can listen to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Pocket Cast, via RSS, on Facebook, on Twitter, at Bingo Podcast. You can follow me on Instagram at nbaldridge, or you can listen to us on our website, which is foramusementonly.libsyn.com. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.